welcome to Sword and Serenity. My name is Kristen Wessler. I'm here with Miss Bobby Morgan, my beautiful host, and today we're talking to Michaela Kirkendall. So excited. She's a mom of four boys?
4 boys, yeah.
A mom of 4 boys.
Yes.
Mad respect to all the boy moms out there.
Yes.
Thank you.
You guys are different breeds. But I'm so excited to hear from you. I've heard some of your story. I'm really excited to hop into more of your story. So let's start with, how long have you been coming to FOP?
We've been coming to FOP since 2021. We were coming in 2020, but then we had the thing with the pandemic, so we kind of took a little bit of a break and visited another church for a bit, and then we came back in 2021, and we've been here since.
That's awesome. How did you guys hear about FOP?
When we got married, we kind of just went on a church hunt, try to plant our own roots somewhere, and then turned out that we had some friends that attended here, and it felt like family, so we just kept on coming.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how long have you and your husband been married?
We got married August 22nd of 2015. We were 18 and 19.
Oh,
So,
So sweet.
young lovebirds.
yeah.
Okay, but you guys have been through quite some transitions, huh?
We have. Yeah, the last year for sure has been a roller coaster of events. Definitely.
You want to hop into that? tell us kind of where that started, because it's your 1-year anniversary.
Yeah. November 17th of 2023, my husband was in a head-on collision on the job. He normally was a driver, but on this particular day, he was the passenger. And the truck lost brakes going around a curvy hill in the rain. And the driver thought it would be best to try to hit the embankment, kind of bounce off that just to stop. And once they hit it, they bounced back and hit another truck oncoming head on. They all 3 were taken by ambulance to the hospital. And we didn't actually find out that same day that my husband had sustained a traumatic brain injury. He was actually given the clear to go. And that night, he started a massive decline. He went to the sink to get a cup of water, not, feeling well. I think just to take a Tylenol or something. And he had the cup of water in his hand, and he is walking across the kitchen and dumped the whole cup of water on the floor, picked the cup up and kept walking, acting like he was drinking it. And I was like, well, that's not normal.
Not normal.
Yeah.
And then he had a follow-up appointment that Monday. And the doctor was like, oh, I think that you have something else going on here. And we're like, you think?
Wow.
And it turned out that he had sustained a traumatic brain injury, and it just had a slower way of developing. It was a delayed response to the injury. And then December 12th, he was admitted into the ICU after a physical therapy appointment because it had appeared that he was having stroke-like symptoms, and they really weren't sure what was happening. Just back up a little bit. He had been scheduled for physical therapy. He had sustained some other injuries during the accident. He had cognitive therapy. He lost the vision in his right eye because of the traumatic brain injury. At first, they thought maybe it was just like a migraine. And then once he got in to see the neurologist, it took a long time to see the neurologist. It was really a God thing that he got in, because it was going to take like six months or longer, and he was able to get right on the list. We got him in, and they don't know why he can't see out of his right eye to this day. But anyway, sorry, back to December 12th, he was admitted into the ICU, and he was there for observation. They could not figure out what was wrong with him. It was just the traumatic brain injury progressing and doing what the weird things the brain does. The brain is like...
The brain is I don't want to say crazy. That's not even the right word, but
it's complicated. Yeah,
very much so. Because the same thing could happen. All 3 of us could have the same brain injury, and it would affect all of us in a different way.
It doesn't progress. An injury doesn't progress the same in every person. It's a little bit different. Like his was a slow progression. He's a very strong, very fit, healthy young guy. Like nothing up until this point. And then all of a sudden, you know, he was like, oh, you're cleared. You know, you can leave the hospital the day that they're in this massive accident. One of the guys in the back seat lacerated his liver. The other guy injured his knees. There was like the hand of God. They literally walked away because the officers had said if they had gone over the like the hill, there was a pond, and they normally pull people up in body bags,
Wow.
and they didn't, and they hit somebody head on, clocked at like 75 miles an hour, and everyone walked away.
Wow.
So that was definitely the hand of God, you know, holding on, watching all of them. But just the fact that he had such a slow decline, and then it all of a sudden picked up
Kinda
towards like the
manifested,
beginning of December, and then
So he was home about a month
yeah.
before he was admitted to the
Yeah.
ICU. Were
Did
you
he
having
work-
to be hands-on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty hands-on in the beginning, just because like he had a massive accident. Like he was super bruised up, beat up, uncomfortable, you know, in pain. And then just, you know, caring for your husband like normal. Like if, you know, your partner's injured, hurt. And then driving him around, he couldn't drive. That was one of the things. He was not allowed to drive in the beginning, so I was taking him to every appointment.
Yeah.
And then towards the middle of December, when he was admitted into the ICU, it was a little bit more like just hands-on. I was only 5 months, a little over 5 months postpartum with our youngest. And
The
fourth, yeah.
Boys.
4 boys. I had one that was about to turn 2, and lots of hands-on on everybody then. But no, the 12th took him to one of his physical therapy appointments. That morning he was like, I don't feel like going to this. I think I'm going to cancel it. I dropped him off at the door, left, got a phone call saying, you know, we're taking him to the ER and he needs to go to the ER. We got there, had to call my mom to try to get the kids. My mom lives over an hour away, so try to get them to her so I could go be with him. In the ICU, it actually took us a long time to even get the neurologists that were on scene that deal with strokes to believe that he was having a stroke. Like
Wow.
symptoms, even though he was sent over there, it was like 5 or 6 hours he sat in the ER, like miserable, not able to talk, not able to see. His eye couldn't track anything, so his eye would like lag, and it was scary. But after that that event, I got a lot more hands-on, a lot more care, just our life completely changed. We had to bring him home after that hospital stay. And I physically and just mentally and emotionally and financially couldn't do it because he is the primary provider for our family, and everything just stopped. It stopped, and I had to take care of the kids and him, and we just don't really have a lot of family involved, and it was, you know, a huge gift. His grandparents actually were like, hey, why don't you move in with us and take a load off, and we'll help you with the kids, we'll help get them around to school, and we'll help, you know, you if you have to get them to the doctors, or if you have to get a job or whatever it is, we'll help you in this area. And that just felt like a huge weight
Provision, yeah.
off the shoulders, because it was like, I don't know how I'm going to come up with a rent or my car payments or food or any of these things. And just about the time we moved in with them, it was the beginning of the year, January 8th, moved in with them. He got his first like disability check, and just like everything kind of lined up then. Like God's provision was like, hey, like I got you.
Yeah.
You guys aren't gonna, struggle too badly. So
Oh my goodness. So that is so crazy. So life was like going along like normal. Then the accident happens. And then you think he's okay. And then he gets worse. And then you're figuring out how to take care of everybody and everything. And I love how it's like in the middle of the storm that God still starts to line things up, and it's like the dominoes start falling
Yeah.
into place because your husband's grandparents,
Yeah.
that was so the Lord that
It
he
was.
literally raised people up to take care of you and like take ownership of you guys. And then that first check came in. How long did you have to be caretaker for your husband? Like, how long was he dealing with all these injuries?
An entire year. So, a little over a year. November 17th of 2023, he was in the accident. November 17th of 2024 has passed. He has now, been back to work for about a little over 4 months. So it was almost an entire year. We didn't know if he was going to get his driver's license back, because couldn't see. He felt like a teenager again because we went to a neurologist and they were like, you know what, we think that you're to the point where mentally your cognitive, abilities are there and you could potentially drive. You got to do, X, Y, and Z. You have to take this test. You have to take this written test. You have to take a physical
Starting over.
driving test. So they sent out.
I would not want to do that right now.
Me
He
either.
was so nervous.
I'd be
'cause he
afraid I
was
wouldn't
like,
pass.
I don't even know if I remember how to drive because he hadn't
Yeah.
driven for so long.
Yeah.
And they sent out a guy to the house. They picked him up. Felt like a little teenager. And that was, when was that? It was like June, I think. June. So picked him up. No, that's not right. It was July. I don't have my timeline correct. It was in July. They picked him up. He passed his little driver's exam.
Aw, so
got out.
proud.
And he was like, I did it. Got out. So, I mean, over a year that we've lived with his grandparents, his prognosis was about 2 years. They thought it would take him to be able to be in a place where he could be self-sufficient again.
Wow.
And what was that? November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. 8 months, 9 months
Wow.
that he got back on it. I mean, like he got better, right? He started to get better. It wasn't like it was perfect, but my husband was like really strong, really tough. Like, I got to do this. I'm going to provide for my family.
Yeah, it was probably
day that he
killing
was
him
like-
not to be able to be a provider that he's used to being.
The day that he got his license back was the day he was like, I'm going to go back to work. If my boss will have me back. He was cleared for light duty,
Yeah.
and he picked up and went back to work. And
So I have a medical question maybe
Yeah.
that you can ask. What is it they were looking for him to clear him? Like what was it that he was, I know he was diagnosed with a brain injury,
Yeah.
but like was it swelling? Was it like what were they looking for?
So he was not passing like his cognitive tests that he was supposed to be. So he wasn't able to hold conversations. He wasn't able to
Could
read
they
or write.
see it on the screen? The reason I ask that is because like my daughter has epilepsy. They
Okay.
say she has epilepsy.
Yeah.
She does because she has seizures, but they can find no reason. Like they look at her brain and there's like there's no reason, but we see that this is
Yeah.
happening. So I was wondering was that your husband? Were they actually seeing something?
No.
Yeah, that
So
I
it's like
kept thinking.
invisible. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
that's yeah.
So he did all of like the brain scans. He had the CT scans and he had the CAT scans and he had the MRI and he had the study where they tape all the things to your head, and they all came back fine. Like they're like, you got like some kind of shadowing, but like that could
I
be
know.
normal.
I don't know why in the moment that seemed more frustrating. I realize now that it was a blessing in disguise
Yeah.
because I was wanting a diagnosis. Like you're wanting them to say this is what it is. So you're
Yeah.
like, well, if this is what it is, God can heal this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that's why when I was hearing him, like, you're not saying what it is. So I felt like it was probably the same thing. It's like you have something going on, but they
Yeah.
cannot tell you why, and they can't see it on in the screen or whatever. They can't say this is what's causing it, but they can say this is what's happening.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
kind of
that's
invisible.
yeah. But in believing God for the invisible healing. That's what it feels like.
In the unseen.
Whatever
Yes.
it is.
See, the
Whatever it is,
outside
God,
is
you
damaged,
know.
But internally, it's like,
Yes.
I don't know. Like they're like, we don't really know why you went blind. You might get your vision back.
Yeah,
You might
see,
not.
yeah.
Can't really pinpoint.
Yeah.
Where that's at.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Thank the Lord that we have a God that can heal even what the doctors can't diagnose, right? It's
Yes.
like,
Seriously.
thank you, Lord. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So that's a big progression in 1 year.
it really is. They did not think that it was going to be this fast. When I go to the doctors, they're like, honestly, you're like a miracle
Yeah.
because there's so many people that these things happen to, and it's kind of like having an invisible, like disease, like where you're exhausted or you don't feel well, or like a mental health,
Yeah.
illness, where he was completely fine and all of these things, and then all of a sudden he has this now like invisible to an extent injury. Like, I mean, on the outside, his eye was drooping and he can't see, and his eye looks different. And, he's doing things odd and different, like putting dice for a game in the freezer and spilling a cup of water and, walking away not realizing it. He wasn't allowed to hold our baby because he started randomly just falling over and tripping and then falling down the stairs. And I had to help him in the shower and in the bath and out of the bath. And he's a big guy. It was,
Yeah.
like, really
They probably
difficult.
didn't want him to be in water
No.
without supervision. Yeah.
So just things like that, like things
Yeah.
that we take for granted, like every day, just being able to just take care of ourselves and feed ourselves. And after the accident, if you're in like a car accident or something, you'll have like insurance people call you, or lawyers, or kind of scammers.
Yeah.
And he tried to give his personal information out, and just things that he would not normally do,
Right.
he was doing.
Yeah.
And that
And that's kind of hard as a wife to have to kind of watch your husband. You know what I mean? Because then he's probably, I don't know, did he ever resent or feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're
Yeah.
trying to kind of watch him like you would a child.
Yes.
How did he respond to that?
He
Was
was-
that very good?
He was always this like super peaceful, like happy
That's the Lord.
person, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I mean, he changed. Like he was kind of the shell
Yeah.
of a person that he once was, and I genuinely was so scared. I was like, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know.
He probably didn't have the confidence because
No.
yeah.
I don't know, like, if I'm gonna, ever know my husband again. And the way that the medical professionals were talking to us, they were basically like,
A lot of
it can
fear.
get worse.
Yeah.
The first 5 years of a traumatic brain injury, they can be detrimental for so many reasons.
And that's why you're wanting to share, because that is not the case.
Yeah, no, it's not. Like,
It is
there's
not.
so much, there's so
Yes.
much hope, and God is so much bigger than all of the
Yes.
problems. I mean, like, it was a rainy Friday,
Yeah.
and we had actually gotten into a fight the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And that morning, we're all like, I'm huffy and puffy, and I'm like, you didn't bring this inside, and it's raining. And then I didn't hear from him all day. And then I find out, he's in this accident. And our world literally changed. We were going to go out to dinner that Friday night, and it was gone. But, I mean, anything can change in a moment. Whatever you're betting on, or you're hoping on, or you're wishing for, can literally change overnight. But just because it changes doesn't mean that it isn't going to get better. It doesn't mean that you can't get through it. Doesn't mean that God doesn't have a better picture for your life, or a better plan for your life. It doesn't mean that it happened for nothing. If you look at like Job, right? He had everything. He had the family and the money and the land and the power and the wealth, and he lost it all. And it wasn't because Job was a bad person. It was because God wanted Job, right, to see that it wasn't about Job at all. It was about God, and how Job was faithful to God, and how that showed other people that, you can lose, but like God is so much bigger than what, we work our whole lives for, what we think that we need, or what we think is ideal, or so.
Yeah. Having God is everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure your faith went on a journey with everything going on, right?
Yeah.
How was that, walking this out? Because it's like you're getting all these diagnoses.
Yeah.
Diagnoses? Is that how you say it?
Diagnosis.
Diagnoses?
Like, yeah.
Whatever the plural form is. You're getting all that from medical professionals, and you have to take that in, what they're saying. But then you're a believer and a person of faith. So how did your walk with the Lord look through all of this? I'm sure there was.
Yeah, it was definitely a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, in the beginning, I was just like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Like, and got to the hospital, and he was cleared, and I was like, oh, okay, we're good.
Oh, good.
Like, it's amazing. Like, I thought, he died, but he's fine. And then that night, I'm like, he's not fine. And so then I was like, okay, God, why did you let him leave if he's not fine? And then, multiple trips to the ER, trips to the ICU, and it's like, oh, he's fine. He's going to be fine. Nope, he's not going to be fine. Oh, he might die. he's gonna, it was just up and down and back and forth.
Yeah.
And it left me questioning God, like, why did this happen? Because, the course of the past few years, it was like a series of unfortunate events that just left me just shaken. Like, I mean, I'm watching my husband, who has provided and worked, and he's lost so much, continuously love his family and want to provide for his family. And like, his family is his purpose in life. It is his calling is us. And I'm like, all this man, God, is trying to do is love us, lead us, take us to church, do all of the right things. And it's just like he continuously is getting knocked down. It's like every time he stands up, I feel like he's getting knocked down, and then by default, I mean, I'm next to him. So it's like we're getting knocked down. And it definitely left me asking God, why? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing so wrong? I mean, I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, we got married. We did things the right way. We did things in order. We have had the babies. We go to church. We love each other. Nobody's doing anything they shouldn't be doing. And yet it just felt like a constant punishment over the few years that all this has been going on. And honestly, having to move, I'll say having to move, because that's kind of what it was, as much of a blessing as it felt in the moment, it was really a pause. Like, we had to do it. It was life shaking. Kids had to move out of their school, and it was just a timeout for everybody. And it left me reflecting on just the course of events and God being, there for us. I can't necessarily put how I was feeling into words, because I felt like our entire life was gone. I felt very empty and alone, like super lonely. I didn't have family. I didn't really have friends who could comprehend or understand the magnitude of just like, in the course of, it happened in November, and then by January, we were essentially homeless, about to sell all of our cars, had no income, kids weren't in school, kids basically didn't have any friends. So I'm like, okay, God, why are you doing this? And I genuinely feel like he was like, hey, like, I'm faithful. Like, you don't have to worry. Like, I want you to know, like, you don't have to worry. I've got you. Like, I'm going to feed you. I'm going to clothe your kids. Like, Fellowship of Praise, that Christmas, like last year, I was like, I don't even know what to do. I was overwhelmed. I had no finances, and you guys, the church, like, they came together, and my kids had probably a bigger Christmas than they've ever had in their entire life. That was just one.
Yeah.
That was just one of the one
My
of the
biggest
ways.
Christmas growing up, that I can remember.
Yeah.
I forget, I was like 8, 9, 10, something like that. Same thing. I didn't know that then.
Yeah.
Like, my parents tell me the story, like, that was the Christmas we had nothing, and that people gave to us. And I'm
it's
like,
the
that's the Christmas I remember. It's crazy.
With everything.
God provides.
He does.
Yes, yeah.
Like, yeah, I just felt like I don't know where I'm going to get groceries or, Christmas or
Yeah.
or anything. And it was like, here's your house. Don't worry about a house, rent. Don't worry about a mortgage. Grandparents are like, putting you up, and you have food, and you have all of these things. And it was just him showing me that I needed to rely on him, and that is the purpose
Yeah.
of just everything that went on. And for some reason, that thought process hit me towards the middle, like the self-loathing and the woe is me, and oh my gosh, like
Why me? Yeah.
feeling bad for ourselves had its moment in the light. And then I feel like God just like, okay, well, there you go. And like, let's snap you out of it. Like, this is about me. It's not about you.
Yeah.
And I want you to be faithful to me. I want you to be faithful to your husband. And I will work everything out for good. And this is a season. And I'm going to get you through it. And
Good.
that's what I...
Good. It's not only that you heard him, but that you listened to him and you were obedient to him. Because sometimes we hear in the moment what God is saying, but when we don't respond to it, we're still frailing. You know what I mean? We're still trying to figure it out. So.
And it's so easy in really in any hardship, but especially something like your circumstance that you were in, it would be so easy to slip into that victim mentality.
Yeah.
Because those are all valid things. Like your husband was a victim, you were a victim to the situation, your kids were,
Yeah.
and it's like your flesh wants to stay in that place.
Yeah. Very much.
You know? But I
Yeah.
love that, well, one, that the Lord was like, you have to rely on me, and that you were willing to do that and
Yeah.
trust in him. That speaks so much to you and your family.
Thank you.
You know, to like
That's God.
rely on the Lord fully, like literally with everything in that season, and see him really do a miracle in your family.
And I hear you say that you have to, but I'm going to say that a lot of people get in the place where you are, maybe not the same circumstances, and even though they should, they don't. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like they'll turn to drugs or alcohol or whatever it is that, that they feel like will just kind of mask or hide or, you know, the issue or the problem that they're so deep in.
Yeah.
But I love that what you said is I didn't have a choice, which means it's good. I'm going to choose what God's speaking to me. That is my choice, because you did actually have a choice, but you chose to listen to him, hear him, respond to him. Doesn't mean that you probably didn't have still low moments where the enemy will still whisper all the things that he likes to whisper in our ears, but you just kept trucking and knowing that I'm going to be faithful to my husband. I'm going to do all the things that the Lord is asking me to do in this moment, even though it's really, really hard
It was really painful. Yeah.
and painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about the pain. Like when you say and painful, when you say that, what do you mean? Like,
It was losing everything, right?
Yeah.
For starters.
yeah,
It was painful and kind of humiliating, right?
yeah,
Very humbling. Having to, share with Pastor Alex that, hey, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to give my kids Christmas. And she's like, oh, I got you. Like, don't worry about it. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. And then, that was humbling. Those two things were painful enough. And then watching my husband genuinely slip away, like in front of me, and thinking like this is it. Like I'm gonna lose him. I'm gonna be a single 27-year-old mom,
yeah. The things he was whispering in your ear.
4 kids.
Yes.
And like, I'm not gonna be able to provide for them. I'm not gonna have anything. I'm losing my best friend. And then the thought process, came into my mind where it was like, well, I felt like I'm losing him in one way or the other. Like he's either gonna die from this, or he's gonna be in a
the
state
same. Not the
where it's just like, this is who he is, and we're never gonna have like a conversation that he's gonna remember
Right.
or be a part of or recall, and he's just gonna be like my 5th kid.
Yeah.
Like that's how I felt, and it was painful because I'm watching someone I love in pain, like
Yeah.
suffering in so many different ways, and it was painful because I hurt for them, but I also felt a little bit like, oh, woe is me, like nobody sees what I've lost. Nobody
Right.
sees how mentally exhausting this is, or how I'm suffering, and I felt honestly lonely. I'm like,
Yeah.
does anybody even care? Does
Yeah.
anybody notice
Yeah.
that this is going on? Which made me feel to an additional like guilt for being like, oh
That's
my
what I
gosh.
was like, and then there's the guilt. He just keeps adding, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
it's just like
Yeah.
this never-ending box of like the enemy like attacking you. It was like he attacked me. I felt like in every direction during this time. It was like, well, you don't have a husband now. You're a failure. You can't provide for your kids. Like, if your husband did die and you ever remarried, like nobody would want you. Like you've
Right,
got 4
all
kids.
the
Like
things that-
I mean,
yes.
I felt inadequate. I felt like I didn't measure up. I was like, God, am I strong enough? Am I going to be strong enough? Like, and it was painful. Just, I've never experienced, I don't think, a loneliness and a fearfulness
Yeah.
like I did in that.
Do you
that
have
season.
any advice for people who would be going through a tough situation and they're in that place where they're hearing all those lies and they're not seeing the hope in it? Was there anything that you did, or any truths that you realized?
Scripture the Lord may
Yeah.
have given you, or
Yeah.
something you just
Like, how did
held
you
on
get yourself
to.
out of that place?
Genuinely
Yes.
reading the book of Job. Like, I
Okay.
just felt like in that moment, I was in the bathtub one night and I was like in the depths of despair. And I just felt like God was like, come back to me and read the word. And I was like, I don't really feel like it. Like, I don't feel like it. I don't have the bandwidth. Like, I'm just mentally drained. And so I didn't read it. I turned it on my phone, on the Bible app, and I just started listening to it. And I was like, okay, this guy did it. Like, oh, okay, he did it. We can do it. I can do it. My husband can do it.
Wow.
Like, just persevere. He's got us. It's not for nothing. Like, I didn't feel like in that season there was an alternative. Like, I felt like it was either do or die. Like, lean on God.
Yes.
Or like there was no other choice. Like,
Yeah.
I've never felt more of a pull or more of a tug from God being like, I've got you and I love you and like you're gonna get through this. So definitely just the entire book of Job. I've read it twice in the last year.
That's awesome.
But
So now you're on the other side of it. You're moving into / have moved into.
yes,
Right.
we are moving. We've moved. We're continuously moving this week. So
Oh,
our horizons have broadened.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And your husband's working.
He's working.
and doing great.
Yeah, he's doing. I mean, he's doing well. He's still has loss of vision in his right eye, but he has come out of it. We have conversations. We've yet to be on a date.
Yeah,
since, but
that's gonna.
That's fine.
That might be because you have 4 boys.
Yes.
It could
But
be.
that's gonna change too.
It could be, but no. We're having conversations. We're figuring life out. We're rebuilding. We didn't lose the cars. We actually were able to cash a car off during the season.
Wow.
So God works everything out for good, even in the depths of that woe and the sorrow and the unknown and the scary times. He really pulled through for us. I mean, like, he's God. I mean, so that's kind of a silly way to see it, but like, I really thought like our life was over. I thought like, there's nothing's gonna come of this. I'm just gonna be a lonely, sad mom forever. And that is not the case. I mean, it sounds kind of depressing, but
Oh, it actually sounds very joyful to me. It's like
Yeah.
the fact that, like, look at where you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because God is the one who's led you there, and it's you being obedient to as everything He was speaking to you, you following what He's saying, and it led you right where you are right now.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
which it seems like in a good place.
it does. This season,
Yeah.
exiting that season, entering this season, feels joyful. I mean, I had a joy that I can't necessarily explain towards the end of that season, just because it was like, okay, like, thank you,
had
God,
hope.
for, it was hope.
It was hope.
This season is
yeah.
like, it's joy. Okay, it's like Christmas time and life
Yes.
is chaotic and I
Yes.
haven't bought a single gift, but we had like a house and we didn't lose our cars and my husband's alive and our family's together. And it just feels like the rebuild and the coming back story. And I could not be more thankful.
Yes. It's going to be a big year for you guys.
I feel like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the best way.
In the best way.
We'll have
yes.
her back at the end of next year and see what
I
all
know,
has
tell-
happened.
Our 2-year
Recap.
update. That's so awesome. Okay,
good.
well, to wrap it up and close, do you mind praying for somebody, like picturing somebody who's listening who is probably going through a hardship
Yeah.
of some sort, and just pray that they find that hope that you found
Absolutely.
in the Lord during all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I come before you today, thanking you for all of the blessings, God, that you have bestowed on my life in the last year and your faithfulness that you've given me. God, I pray for anyone listening today, God, who is going through a hard time, God, who feels isolated and lonely and feels like there is no way out of their sorrow or their depression or the pit that the enemy has put them in, God. I pray, God, that you would show them the light. God, I pray that they would see that you are there for them, God, and that you are our hope. And God, apart from you, there is nothing. And God, that you have the power, God, to bring us from anything, God. You are the one who conquered the world, God. You died for us, God, and you love us, and you want us to know you, and you want us to know love, and you want us to have hope, and you provide us with hope in a future, God. Yes. And God, I pray that over someone today, God. I pray for someone suffering, God. I pray, God, that you fill them with hope and with joy, God.
Yes, Lord.
In your name I pray, amen.
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 Thank you, Jesus. That's awesome.
Good.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope that you feel encouraged and hope-filled, and we will see you next time.